Hello, hello, hello. Y'all know who this is? It's Dr. Torie. And guess where I am at? I had to come so I can see this studio because I'm telling you now, we will have guests here in the studio and we will be doing live interviews. So I had to come and test it out for myself. And I want to thank my wonderful producer for having me here. Hey, Mar.
What's up? What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm here because a birdie told me, and of course I didn't know. Kirk Franklin is from Fort Worth for real.
Yeah, Kirk Franklin from Fort Worth.
I want to get him here in this studio.
So, for those that don't know, we record here in Dallas, Fort Worth. So, we're in the heart of Dallas, downtown Dallas right now. So, if you're in the Dallas area, you want to come and sit down with Dr. Torie, or if you have your own podcast and you want to record, just reach out to us. We'll put the information at the bottom of this video, and hit us up. We can help you out and get your podcast, your videos, get you out to the public. So yeah, Kirk Franklin.
I'm excited to be here because I think he actually will come and share his story. I mean, I love the fact that, and I hate to say this, I posted on his page after I saw his Father's Day documentary, and I've gotten about 30 or 40 likes just off of thank you, Kirk, for sharing your ACEs story. Mm-hmm. So, for those who don't know adverse childhood experiences, that's a great example. Right. To find out at the age of 52 that your father was living down the street, yeah, that's ACEs.
I saw people post about it on social media because I'm a Christian. I go to church. I listen to gospel music sometimes, but I'm mainly a heathen though. So I'm gonna hear Kirk after y'all tell me it's coming out. So I wasn't aware that he had a new album coming out, and then I saw people posting on social media about how they were talking about his mom. They were like, that mom and that auntie is something else. And I saw people posting about it, and then I saw the link to the YouTube. So I said, let me go check it out. And as soon as I watched it, I sent it to Dr. Torie. Yeah. As soon as I watched it, because when I tell you, because I was in the confines of the studio by myself watching that video, I ugly cried.
Man.
I ugly cried. And we'll get into it, but I just, Kirk Franklin has been a big part of my life in terms of with his music.
Yeah.
And he's lived in the public eye, and he's had different trials and tribulations that have gone on with his personal life, like with his marriage and with his son,
right,
and all of that. But then when you see this story, it all makes sense.
And for me, I didn't know. Nobody told me. He says you just need to watch it. And so when I watched it, I actually had to pause it a couple of times because for those who know, it was pretty triggering. I cried. Like, not, I'm talking about boo hoo cried. Because for me, it was the fact that I'm linked to Kirk through his music. So when I think about Silver and Gold, when I think about God's Property,
something about the name of Jesus,
all of this, you could tell that music is his therapy. And I've always told everybody, and y'all know that, you don't have to sit down on a couch to get therapy or share your story. Find what works for you. If you know me, I'm heavy into extracurricular activity. He has used his God gift of music to share it with the world, but I don't think people really knew exactly what his story was until now.
One of my favorite memories with my children, I used to live in Houston, Texas, and the church we went to, Church Without Walls, Pastor Ralph West, we had watch night service every New Year's Eve. And because the church was massive, mega church, and we would rent out this arena at one of the school districts so we could get everybody in one place for watch night service. Mm-hmm. And then we have sometimes the choir, sometimes they bring in a different artist, but one year in particular, they brought in Kirk Franklin. And when I tell you that place was packed, and we were going to go anyway, but it was me, my wife at the time, my mother-in-law, and my 4 children. And when I tell you, now, it's gospel music, so you're supposed to be praising.
Yes.
But when I tell you, Kirk had that place rocking,
Of course.
and the best memory of that whole evening, outside of just his performance and the singing, was because it was so packed, we couldn't all sit together. So I had, my children with my mother-in-law, me and my wife at the time were sitting together, and I looked at my children and I saw how joyful they were and how much they were enjoying the music. And I said, he's reaching. They're gonna remember that,
Yeah.
and they still do.
Right.
They still do, because we came up on like old Negro spirituals and stuff that got our parents, our grandparents through.
Right.
But Kirk really re-energized, came out with a new style of gospel
He did.
that really made it relatable
They
to a lot
talked
of
to
people.
him back in the day. They talked about him bad.
Bad,
You know what I mean?
bad.
But I'll be totally honest with you. I have a confession. I'm a singer, y'all. I actually went to a performing arts high school. I was in like 13 choirs.
She went to fame, y'all.
Shut up.
she's being very, very, very modest. She can sing.
Okay. But okay, I
Go
can.
ahead. Yeah.
And I was in several choirs, so I have to shout out Purcell Academy. I have to. That was the Purcell Gospel Choir. That's what I was a part of. Shout out to Dana Carter. I was a part of SCLC. So if you know anything about the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, we were everywhere. We toured across the United States. Shout out to Reggie Robinson, to Odell Talley, who is still out here playing music. We sang, and all of those songs were a part of us. So we kind of grew up with Kirk. And then going to school, shout out to Central Missouri State University. I was the president of the gospel choir. We sang. And so all of these songs are relatable to me because I grew up with Kirk. So watching that kind of hurt me a little bit, because you really never know what someone is going through and you don't know their story. So for him to share his story.
Right. Yeah, it was tough. And before we get to that, I want to shout out, you just listed all of those organizations that you were in, singing, but what was that you listed? Extracurricular activities, which you talk about all the time, right?
All the time.
Yeah, all
and
the
that
time.
is not only my outlet for extracurricular, but I'm sure, as you all know, that's Kirk's.
Right.
That's his
You
therapy.
can tell that was his therapy. Not only is it his ministry, but it's his therapy as well.
And I think while we're talking about that, what I loved is as he was going through it, he told his people, I need y'all. I got to make this song.
Right.
And I think the part that really had me, ooh, is when he was like, I just wanted a dad. And he came up with the song. So I'm ready actually to hear the whole album, because it makes me think back to when he first started, when he was doing like God's Property, or he was Kirk Franklin and a Family.
Yeah.
Like
The New Nation Project.
Were those songs too a part of his history? Were they his therapy? Because when you think about it, I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. Y'all didn't know that he was homeless. I didn't know that until I saw the documentary. I would have never known that Kirk Franklin was homeless.
And I'm gonna tell you the part that made me ugly cry.
Tell me.
We talked about ACEs all the time, and we talk about trauma and how it can be passed down to your children. And Kirk made the news. He's had a rough relationship with his son, and he said in the documentary, there was no way that I could go through this without trying to heal the relationship with my son.
Correct.
And when he sat his son down and he gave him the information, and when his son broke down crying, that's what made me cry, because, I'm a father, I have 3 girls, and I have a son myself. And, to see how that wound being addressed for Kirk, how that wound showed up in his relationship with his son, even though he didn't abandon his son, even though you could tell that trauma that he went through was passed down to his son. Them finally finding that answer to try to address that piece that's been missing in their life. Not only was it fixing Kirk, but it was fixing Carrington, his son, as well.
Right.
And that right there got me.
Yeah.
Especially since they, it seems as if they were trying, after that, they tried to mend, because things happen.
Right.
You know, when you're a parent, you know, both of us are parents. Things happen with your children, and sometimes you just got to tell them, "Hey, look, go do you."
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not finna keep going around and about with you. And it seems like they're finally starting to fix that. And what I liked about it was Kirk's father, the one he was introduced to, and we were introduced to along with him
Right.
in the documentary.
Right.
He said, "We do this on your time. It's all about you." And he's even trying to reach out to the grandson as well. So I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah. He didn't know. I mean, and even if it's the attempt, because it has to be some type of connection between Kirk, his son, and his biological father.
Right.
I think that can glue them and kind of get them with some clarity and understanding, because there's a missing link based off of their aces. I'm sorry, it is what it is, you guys. You can say what you want, but childhood trauma is real. It's called adverse childhood experiences. I can tell you what category it belongs to. Household dysfunction is so real. Divorce, separation, growing up without parents, growing up with parents. Some of them are incarcerated. Some of them are on drugs. I don't know what the situation was between him and his mother, because honestly, this was my first time actually hearing about his mother.
I didn't know he was adopted. I
either.
didn't know he was adopted. I didn't know that. This is my first time being introduced to the story.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of the mom, a lot of people had a lot to say about her. What were your thoughts?
Ooh. I think for me, it was her opportunity to come clean, and she didn't. I'm sorry. If you know me, I'm going to keep it 100. Y'all know I'm going to keep it 100. She had an opportunity to come clean, and to this day, I'm interested to see if she actually has. They took 2 DNA tests.
Yeah.
2.
And
Two.
she still denied it.
And she denied it. 2.
Do you have any type of sympathy for her at all?
No. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I'm a mother. That mother wound, and I've had guests talk about it. It's a part of discussions all the time. He asked her, here's your opportunity. And she got on, and so we all witnessed it because we saw it.
Right.
And she had the opportunity to come clean, and she didn't.
You know, I will say this. I didn't like how she handled it. I definitely didn't like how that aunt, I didn't like how either one of them treated Kirk.
Yeah.
At all, especially that aunt.
Yeah.
And when it got to the second DNA test, and he kept asking her, are you denying me? Because all he wanted was, baby, I'm sorry.
That's it.
And to be hugged, and that's all he wanted.
That was
You
it.
could tell that's all he wanted from her. And she couldn't give it to him. She couldn't.
Nope.
Not that, I don't know if it was she wouldn't. I don't think she could.
But I think
But see, and the aunt, as hard as she was on Kirk, she was like, even she had to say, the DNA is there. The boy just wants to know. But we talk about Kirk's aces. To me, what stood out, it's clear that mama has aces too. Because if you think about it, what was she, 14 or something when she had Kirk? There's got to be something that was going on.
Well,
because how are you this 14-year-old and you don't know who your baby father is? So clearly there's some lack of supervision going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. And she needs to heal that, because she's not going to be able to do it for Kirk until she does it for herself.
Exactly.
And clearly she's in denial.
I think I think about how hurt he was sitting at that table. And he brought everybody together. It wasn't, this was, Kirk said, look, we're going to get down to this today. Right. I don't want somebody to say this and then this happens and then it's 2 different. Nope, I want everybody in the same room, which was smart. And the only person that was actually there for Kirk was his biological father.
Right.
2023, you guys, this man is 52 years old and found out who his father was at the age of 52. So for those that haven't, there's still an opportunity.
Yeah.
But understand it's going to come with a lot. And so it's going to be up to you to understand, which is the reason why I'm trying to educate and understand people about adverse childhood experiences, because that's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
And I think that Kirk, he's fortunate that his biological father, it seems from what we saw, seems to be doing pretty well with his life.
Mm-hmm.
His approach, saying, hey, Kirk, we're going to do this on your time. It's all about you. He broke down crying. He said, had I known, if I would have known. That part I'm kind of like, you knew, if you could sit around in church and say, you know what, I used to deal with his mama, then I don't know.
But at the age of 14, do you really think at the age of 14 you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna give him a pass on that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna give him a pass on that.
Okay.
Because unless you moved, because the world's not that big, especially if you living in this neighborhood in Fort Worth, Texas, right? Yes, it's a major city. Dallas Fort Worth is a major city.
Yes.
But you know, if you mess with this girl, and unless they didn't send her off somewhere, and then she just come back, and okay, I could see maybe if they were like, okay, remember, back in the day, they were like, she done got into some trouble, so they sent her off to grandma's or auntie down south so she could have the baby. Then she come back, right? And we leave the baby with grandma to raise. And it was Kurt's great aunt that raised him, right? He said it was his great aunt. I could see that, but he lived in the same neighborhood as this boy. He had to have known. So I'm not gonna give him too much of a pass.
Really?
No, I'm not. I just can't. Now,
Respect.
I appreciate how he's handling it now. And again, he was a child too. 14, he was a child too. So I'm not trying to be hard on him.
Right.
But if you could say, I used to deal with his mama, then you could say, you know what, maybe that possibility way before this boy turned 52.
Right.
That being said.
That is true. Okay.
And so I'm going to ask you this.
Okay, I'm ready.
We talked about people not knowing who their biological parent is.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk's biological father seems to have it together. I've heard people say sometimes it's better if you aren't introduced to the biological parent because of the potential trauma and the whole Pandora's box that you can open up by meeting that person. I don't know if it's right or wrong, so I'm gonna ask your opinion.
Okay.
But I know somebody was like, nah, that he ain't about nothing. He ain't got it together. His family ain't got it together, so you better off without him. Now you making that decision for that child,
right?
Which I think is wrong. I think sometimes you be like, okay, we'll let you meet him,
right?
And then you find out on your own. What you think?
I don't know if they can build anything now because I feel like as men, they've already created their foundation. I think the missing person is the son. Because I feel like the opportunity for the grandfather to get to know his grandson is still there.
Yeah.
The opportunity for Kirk to bond with his son is really here now because that missing piece is when you don't have a father figure, how can you father and you don't have a father figure? Yes, he was adopted, but it's still something different. You know what I mean?
Because they mentioned the guy that his mama said was his father. Mm-hmm. And people have been mean to Kirk on social media
all the time, though.
For years, and I never really understood it. I never got it. I mean, I do know where it comes from, but and I don't want to go into that, but I thought it was unjust.
For me, he's a hero because he told a story.
Yeah.
And I think it brought a big Awareness to adverse childhood experiences, if y'all don't know.
That's why I sent it to you.
He told his story.
Yep.
He told his story. And if you know anything about me and the podcast, these are people that are sharing their story. They're also sharing their healing process and what they do to heal. His music is his therapy.
Right.
Therapy is. And everybody doesn't want to do it, and it's understandable. I get it. I go because it has helped me and my family.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate of therapy, especially when you are in a place that it seems like you're spiraling out of control. And I've been there before. I'm thankful that I'm in a place now where if I do go to therapy, and I have a wonderful therapist. Shout out to Osiris Raid. He's one of my frat brothers here in Dallas, Texas. I can just make that call, and we can do a tune-up. I can get it off my chest, and we go from there. But I think even as adults, you talk about those extracurricular activities. This is mine, producing podcasts, doing things like this I'm doing with you right now. It's what keeps me from spiraling out of control. This is my ministry, like Kirk's ministry is singing and producing music. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would like to see a follow-up to this, though. I would like to see a follow-up. I don't know if that was raw emotions. And I'm sure for some people that was triggering. Super triggering.
Yeah.
If I was triggered and I know my daddy and I had a good relationship with my daddy, I could just imagine somebody who did not have a good relationship or doesn't know their father, what this did to them.
Right. It was. I watched it. I had to watch it, and I plan on watching it again. It was good to me. It really was. It was good.
Yeah.
I felt like it was me watching somebody that I know go through this. You know what I'm saying? Like, poor young man. That's how I feel, seriously, because he didn't deserve that. His mom, and then the auntie, and you don't have to act like that.
Right.
I'm sure he's still taking care of them. You know what I'm saying? And y'all disrespecting him like that. I didn't like to see it. I didn't.
No, it is. It's tough. We talked about dysfunctional household, right? That's part of ACEs.
It is.
That's part of ACEs. Have you ever seen anybody? I'm talking about in your regular walk. Your work as Dr. Torie. Have you seen a young man, young woman who was in the same situation as Kirk, didn't know their father, didn't know their mother, who their biological father is? How does that manifest in their life? What type of problems did you see with people like that? Because I know you've been on the front lines. Dr. Torie is, like I said, she's real modest, but she's been on the front lines with our children, teaching, advocating for ACEs. So how does it show up?
I think it just shows up. The kids are not going to talk about it, but you could tell that it's a wound there due to things that are happening. So, like, I put an emphasis on just looking at the different categories. Like, people don't talk about being emotional. Being emotional is supposed to be looked at as a bad thing, but the reality of the situation, there's nothing wrong with it. So it really just depends. I've also dealt with students that had came to school with different information that they really are not supposed to be sharing, but they share it based on what they see. You see what I'm saying? Like, mom's in out doing something she's not supposed to do, or dad is out doing something he's supposed to do. It's just so much. We put so much on our kids, and people don't understand how much that our kids are watching and watching the things that are not supposed to happen that actually happen, and they think that that's okay. I've seen a lot. It's hard to say. I think for me, that's the reason why I advocate so much, because, like that mother wound, I've seen parents that are not mothers or kids that are raised with other people instead of being raised with their mothers, and that have an impact on them. Or a dad's not being there, or somebody else's dad raising somebody else's kid instead of raising the kids that they're supposed to raise. It's a lot. That's the reason why I put so much of an emphasis on adverse childhood experiences. What I do love though now is that with the CDC updating everything, stuff like bullying is in there. Community violence.
You can tell he dealt with bullying big time.
Community violence, homelessness. All of that it needs to be considered because people don't understand and get it. I was telling one of my students, because she was like, "Oh, community violence." I said, "You got to think about it. How many times are we at the school and we saw students pass away? How much of an impact that is on you, knowing your friend. This was your friend. You were in class with this person. This person has passed away. That's triggering. That could be an issue. That could be a problem."
Right.
I hate to see that he went to music, and granted, I'm glad that he's created the music because his music has saved so many people, including myself. But to know that he was in pain, and the pain of going through what he's doing produced everything that he is and made him who he is now, that's deep.
Yeah. And see, for me, I wrote my book on fatherhood.
You did.
And, I work closely with young men. Young men who are in college, young men who are in high school. I feel like as a black man, that's my responsibility.
Right.
And when I saw him say, when he talked to the guy who was supposed to be his father, and he said, I won all these accolades. I was at the top of the world, but I was the most insecure man in the world because you didn't tell me that I well done. And his supposed father was like, I see what you're saying. He couldn't give him. He didn't have the capacity to give that to him. And I see that in young men. I see it when, they know who their father is, but their dad's not there.
Right.
And they've seen other men. And that's why I talked about you don't have to be a father. You can just stand in the gap. And what's funny is, my son and I, we're getting to a point where, when he was a teenager, I didn't know anything.
Right.
Everything I said, you don't know what you're talking about. And, it hurt my feelings, but when I talk to other dads, they say the same, man, it's the same with our kid. We don't know nothing. But somebody else could come and say the exact same thing.
And they'll take their word for it.
And they'll take their word from it. Okay, that's fine. As long as you get it,
right.
I'll learn how to deal with it. But now we're to a point where, Dad, what do you think? What should we do? I need to hear what you think about it. So
that's good.
And then take it a step further. I told one of my friends what you said, and I'm like, man,
you listening?
We need to keep doing this. We need to keep doing this. But I think, when we talk about men in our community, this happens too often.
Let's go into all these wonderful hits that Kirk had, the Kirk Franklin songs. What you think?
All right, you're gonna know more than me.
Because I'll be honest, all the songs were worth it for me. I mean, I can go all the way into Love, or so I'm always bring up Silver and Gold because, but I think about how much of an impact that he made. Just knowing that he made the impact that he did, and all of the background was because of these things, is an eye opener for me, honestly, because I didn't know any of this when we were growing up in the 90s. That he was going through the things that he was going through, but it was those things that made him the person that he is now.
Yeah. I think sometimes I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said it, and we've always said the same. Let me get this over. I was talking to my best friend. And
I thought I was your best friend. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
You one of them.
Okay, thanks.
You one of them.
Thanks.
But I was talking to my best guy friend.
Okay, thanks.
See, I almost went there with you, but I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. But we were talking about how God puts you where you need to be, right when you need to be there.
I agree.
And it's unfortunate that he had to suffer like he did.
Yeah.
But let's look at the positive about how he affected your life, how he impacted your life, the struggle that he went through. And, you know, you talk about how that made a difference for you. I know plenty of people, and they say, you know, in my darkest hour, I was listening to Kirk.
Man.
And it got me through.
I have song after song after song after song, or album after album after album. Hero. I'm thinking of all the songs that he actually put out that are so relatable to me, that helped me. We're talking about all the way back in the 90s. So, you know, when I was going through the things that I was going through, whether it be the transition of, you know, leaving Kansas City, going to college, you know, all of that, that's all the Aces struggle for me. So
he came out in '93,
yeah.
So that's when we were still kids. We were still in high school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just the songs, just helping me get through singing, you know. Love. Love is like one of my favorite songs to this day. God's Property, that album is still one of my favorite albums. Let's be clear.
Mine was New Nation Project.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I knew Stomp. I knew that music, those songs, but that New Nation Project, from front to back, it was just where I needed to be at that point in my life, because I was going through a rough patch. I was in college, and listen, it got me through. So,
and I think that is a good thing, because that's what we've been talking about all this time. Like, I think that was my bond, and now that I think about it, I think that's probably why me and Kirk bonded so much, because our aces and the things that we were going through and our childhood traumas, he put on his songs. I related to those songs.
Right.
And those songs are the songs that got me through, not just high school, but college.
Right.
And life. Because Kurt is real. He's been out for a long time. We talking about Stomp. We talking about Hero. That's one of my favorite songs. He has so many important people that have been in his songs that all of it's just been relatable to me. He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite artists. So of course, having this conversation is everything to me, because he's actually helped me. He's helped me heal on the many things that happened through my childhood. So I appreciate him bringing this music. I just hate to hear that it's what he went through that helped him create the music for us. So for those that understand what I'm saying, Kurt helped me a lot. And glad that he made this music, but I hate it was under the circumstances that he did, especially with me now knowing everything. Because growing up, you think famous people are just famous. You don't know that they have a story. And now we know. Kirk has a story.
And I hope that he is able to heal. Hope he's able to heal that relationship with his son. It seems like they're on the right path. And I honestly hope that him and his mom can heal. I hope so. I'm doubtful, but I hope so, because she's going to have to first admit that she's got a problem.
And that's the reason why I don't think she has had every opportunity to bring this up. So don't bring it up now. She had the opportunity to say. She had the opportunity to say before he was who he was. She's had all of these years to do it. And then when she got the opportunity to do it, what did she do? Denied it.
But you know, it's so funny how I didn't cut his biological dad any slack.
You didn't.
And you not cutting his mama any slack.
At all. Because there is no way.
But you don't think she suffered from aces too? But
that doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay for her to do what she did because she had aces. Now, I suffer from adverse childhood experiences. However, I'm not going to let that stop me having a relationship with my kids or put what my past aces on them. I think if I tell them, then they'll understand and know. And I think that's the reason why my daughters, as you know, advocate and support me with what I'm doing. And they advocate for aces. You've seen it already. They are out there. They're talking about it. They're discussing. They're having discussions with teenagers and things of that day because they understand it. You have to understand what's going on. And she had that opportunity several times. This man is 52 years old. She's had those opportunities. It's just as easy that she can to call him for something. She should have volunteered and said what she needed to say. Now, I will say this. I have never denied the fact that, and you've said it, that, you have you've been married before, so have I. But I also knew, do I stay in the relationship for the kids so they won't go through it, or do I let go so they don't? You see what I'm saying? So when I made the decisions that I made, I didn't think about them. I was thinking about me. But I will say I stayed longer in the relationship because I was thinking about them. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I just know where we're at now. I have to open up a platform for them to understand not only their adverse childhood experiences, but know that they can heal, and set that up for them so it won't be an issue or well, this didn't happen, or I could have did this. You see what I'm saying? So I have to not. I think the mother could have did better as a mother. I'm sorry.
I think that, clearly she could have.
Sorry.
Yeah, she could have. You talk about staying for the kids or not. I stayed married until my children left the house. That wasn't the goal.
Right.
We're gonna stay together until they leave, but that's just how it happened, and that's probably how it was going to be. So you have to choose. Are you going to demonstrate to them a loving relationship,
right,
in a stable household where mom and dad are walking around not talking to each other, right, and there's so much tension everybody can feel it? Or do you go ahead, rip that Band-Aid off, and so, okay, listen, even though we're not together, we can still parent you all the same. It's going to be different, but it's going to be an ACEs that you have to deal with.
And the fact that the mother didn't give the father that opportunity to do that, because that's also a void that he was looking for. Everybody know it. And again, we saw on the documentary where he went straight to the studio and came up with a song. All he really wanted was a father. And the fact that that was stripped from him, all because his mother didn't want to be honest. I'm never going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm sorry, because she took that opportunity for him by denying and not volunteering the information of who his father was. And blaming somebody else for being the father.
And Kirk said, I hated that man his whole life and for nothing, for no reason.
Yep.
But it makes me wonder, because my mama used to tell me all the time when she was alive, sometimes women, things happen and you don't know who the father is because, things happen, right? No judgment. I'm not going to judge you. You might.
I'm rolling.
No.
Because she could have said something.
No, I hear you. But back in the day, it used to be, I'm going to put it on the guy who's the most stable. Now, it seems as if his biological looked pretty stable to me, and this other dude just wasn't there. So maybe it was, I don't love that guy, but I love him. We just don't know. That's what I'm saying. There's so much, and I think the dad, I can't let him off the hook 100%. I can't let him off.
The biological father, or the one that said he was the father?
No, I mean, I think he's absolved. First of all, he's dead. So there's nothing he can do.
Right.
And, clearly there's just a ton of dysfunction in this little neighborhood in Fort Worth, Texas. Right. Where you got these little 13, 14-year-olds getting each other pregnant and getting it on and, what have you. And it happens in the community. It happens. I don't know if it happens. Does it happen as much as it used to?
I don't know. All I know is...
You was in the school?
13 and 14-year-olds? Getting down? They do this in elementary school. Are you serious? You know this already. This ain't something that you need to hear from me. The news is out there. You know that. They getting down.
So you think it's more prevalent now? Because you remember we used to have the little alternative schools and,
Still out there.
She didn't, but it was only 4 or 5. It's
out here. You got to understand, education has changed tremendously, and I think that's the issue. Remember, kids are vaping. They're doing a lot of different stuff that we didn't do growing up, but it's out here. Working in a high school, what I hated was working in a high school, when you hear the kids say, yeah, that they got it in the gym, or oh, they was going in the closet in the band room. This stuff actually really happens for real. So it's not like they knew, or maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. I don't know. But I still blame the mom, because she had the opportunity to come clean and she never did. And I don't know. I would hope that she's seen this documentary and she can go ahead and come clean. Seriously. I hope so.
I do, because obviously Kirk needs that.
Yep.
Clearly, he needs that.
And even if she doesn't, which she's not, because he already knows that she's not, she needs to mend that with her son, just off of the strength of that's her son.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. It is. I'm a mother of 3. Trust me, it's going to help her so much if she just opens up her mouth and be clean.
You know, before we wrap it up, there was one part when he said, "Are you denying me this?" And she says, "All I want is you, and I still can't have you." She wanted him to just move past that.
Yep.
And it stood out to me before this happened. It said Kirk didn't talk to her. He didn't talk to her. He called her by her first name. Called his auntie by the first name, right? Because the lack of respect that he had for them because of how they treated him.
Right.
And I think they said that he hasn't talked to her since then, right? This has happened this year. This just happened a few months ago.
Yep.
And he hasn't talked to them. And when you talked to Dr. Taylor, she talked about how I don't talk to my family. They're triggering. I can't get past it. And that type of response used to blow my mind, because I used to deal with somebody who said, I blocked my mama. I blocked my mama on the phone. I blocked her on social media. And I was like, damn, you blocked your mom? He's like, I have to. I have to, because of what she does to me. It's triggering. And, I had a wonderful relationship with my mother, so it's hard for me to see that. But then also now, learning from you, I get it. Do you think it's an extreme measure, or you think it's necessary? What do you think?
What are you saying? What's extreme or necessary? The blocking?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like blocking, not talking, all that.
Absolutely.
You
It will change your life. Absolutely. Because it's not about you anymore. I think that's our issue in our community, is that we don't believe in doing that because we're afraid to do that. We're afraid to.
Because we talk, that's your mama.
Yeah.
That's your mama. Because I had to correct my friend, my best friend, because I was talking about how this young man didn't have the best relationship with his mother, and how he was like, I just got to limit my contact with her. I have to limit. I don't like how she thinks, her approach to life. I had to limit it. And I was talking to my boy about it. And he was like, well, yeah, he still needs to understand that's still his mama. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he don't have to be disrespectful, but he doesn't have to subject himself to something that doesn't serve him now that he is technically grown.
Right.
So it took me a while to understand that, but I still sometimes think like, dang, that's harsh.
But what's wrong with it, though, for yourself, for your sanity, for your self-care? Because if you know that this person is triggering, you know that this person is coming with this much pain and it bothers you this much, why continue to be friends? What I want to go back to is your best friend.
Why continue to be, allow your mom to be in your life, your parent to be in your life?
Yeah, because I think about your best friend, who we know is your best friend. He did our podcast. And guess what? One of the things that he said was the fact that they would put him in spaces where he didn't want to be, because these were his family members that did this to him. So that made him stay away from his family because of that. But to force that on there, I have to. What if it's the mother that is doing this? What if it's the uncle? You don't want to be in those spaces. So people like Dr. Taylor, people like Greg, there are people out there that have to put those barriers up and do that, because why put yourself in this? You know who else said it? Sister Fran, she said the same thing. when she was in the hospital, the doctor said, whoever she's talking to, get her off the phone with that person. That was her mother. So of course I don't feel sorry. I don't, because she's had the opportunity to come clean, and she didn't. She didn't at all to this day. And I love my mother to death. And again, this is what I tell people all the time. I don't share her story because it's her story to share, but I know her story. And until she is actually able to come out and say, there's nothing I can do. So when it comes to my mom and her story, I don't share her story. I don't. However, if you're in the situation and you know what's going on, it's not for me to discuss. It's for her to. And people need to understand, even regardless of your story, until you're able to face that and understand that it's not your fault, you're going to carry that wound for you forever. It's not just impacting you, but it's impacting other people. And so that's the reason why a lot of people don't want to admit. There's a real reason why his mother does not want to admit regardless. So that's what we need to look into. She needs to sit on the couch or talk to somebody. Why don't you want to tell your son? What is it? What's stopping you from admitting what happened? He's opening up the gate.
What is it about that dude that you want to deny it?
Yeah. What is it? So that for me, that's what it is. It's the fact that he's like, Mom, say something. And she's like, nothing to say. That's hurting him and giving him a heavy, more of a wound than anything, because she's not. So that's the thing. So how many other people are out there like that? We have a lot of people out there like that. They're not going to say anything, or they're not going to admit it anyway, because, again, why?
I understand.
So that's what it is for me. If I can talk about anything, I'm going to go ahead and continue to advocate for adverse childhood experiences, because they're real and they exist. And until people know and understand, then that's what it is. Like, again, I love my father, but his mother passing away when he was younger, that's not on the ACEs list, but I can tell you how much of an impact that it had on him and his siblings. He was a teenager when his mother passed away. That's ACEs. What can we say and what can we do? But that's the reason why we need to get out there, understand what's going on, and do something about it. Kirk, to do something about it, he turned to music. His music has impacted millions. But this situation has had an even more impact, because who knew? And for him to share his story to the world, thank you, Kirk, because now more and more people can open up and admit those mother wounds, those wounds that they had went through when they were younger, and how much of an impact that it had. I never knew until I saw that, how much Kirk Franklin went through. I just thought he was a happy man that liked to sing.
Yeah. It's definitely tough, and I'm glad that he shared it, because, it's hard making yourself vulnerable like that to the world. And I know there's some people who will say, he shouldn't have done that to his mom, put her out there like that. But that's his story.
It is.
That's his therapy.
It is.
She signed the paperwork to be videotaped and everything else that goes with it. And I hope that, this documentary helps somebody else get to a place where, they can start down that path of healing.
And it's the purpose of us doing the podcast that we do. It's not, okay, we're trying to put people's business out here. It's relatable for people. I get nothing but compliments when people say, oh my God, this happened. Oh, I actually seen episode 4. Oh, so this guy dances. Oh, that's good. I'm going to use my passion to help me, because this is what people are seriously doing. It's not a joke. We're not playing around. This is people in their stories for real. I tell my ACEs story because I need people to understand that it's okay to have it.
Right.
And now that they've updated it for real, it's okay. It's okay. You being bullied, that's an ACE. It's okay. Mass shootings, it's impactful. Community violence. And what's funny is you you can actually break down community violence, because if you think about community violence, it depends on what community you are in. When Carly told her story about the racism, I think that's real for her.
Right.
That's her story.
Right.
It had an impact. So we have to understand everybody's situation is different. This is Kirk. This is his story. Right. And this is how much it had an impact. And the reality of the situation is, because he's in the limelight, it had an impact on him. It had an impact on his family. It had an impact on his son.
Right.
And I hope everybody can come together and do what they do. Extracurricular activity is always a great thing to do, but sit down and understand how much it has had an impact and do something about it.
I'm gonna share a personal story before we end it off. So, I talked about how I dealt with, my depression and how it affected my family. And I met with my therapist. I shouted him out earlier on the show, but he also had a men's group, and we met together as men, and it was about 3 or 4 of us, and we would talk and we would share. We were in different places in terms of what we were dealing with. And there was one brother that was there, and I've told this story plenty of times, and he was talking about living with somebody who was depressed. And he was describing all the things that his wife did and how it impacted him, how it impacted their children. And I was sitting there watching him, and I was like, dang, he's talking about his wife, but he's describing me. And I'm like, am I doing that to my family? Right. And I'm like, okay, I am doing that to my family. I need to fix this. So every time we were in meetings, he was talking about his wife at the time. He got to the point he was like, I'm sorry, dude. And I'm like, nah, man, it's cool. It's cool. Right. So I say that to say, I hope that Kirk's mom can fix it. But I think who she's going to help is that mom who hasn't given their child that hug or that answer. That mom who says, dang, that's how I'm affecting my son? That's why my son won't take my calls? That's why my son has me blocked on social media? That's why he doesn't bring his kids around me? It's gonna help that person to say, hopefully, I'm, glass half full. It's gonna help that person be like, damn, I don't want to be like her. Right. I want to fix it with my child, and maybe they'll do the work, and maybe they'll say, okay, I'm gonna give them what we need. I don't know.
Cause see, I still feel like she has that I'm the mama. That generation is, because I'm the mama, this is supposed to happen. And that was her attitude. You could tell she was real.
She wants that respect that she didn't earn. Just because I birthed you, you should put up with my nonsense and give me respect, and that don't fly.
And that's a lot of mothers out here nowadays. Let's be clear.
Well, I'm hoping that it reaches at least one.
Okay. Well, we'll see, because I'll be honest, that was what it was for me. She had the opportunity to say something and she didn't. And that's my issue. It's like, well, I'm the mama. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You should do this. That was her attitude. And it's like, your son is hurting.
Especially that auntie. The auntie, the one that really made me sick. Yeah. Because my thing with her is, you was quick to put Kirk in check when he was calling you by your first name. Right? You was quick to talk to him, a 52-year-old man, like he was a little boy. Yep. But when your sister was dead wrong, you couldn't be as forceful. You couldn't be as, listen, the paperwork says what it is. Tell that boy what he needs to hear. You wanted to tiptoe and tap dance around that, but you wanted to continue to try to emasculate this grown man.
And this is what happens in families. It does. And I just want to get people to understand what adverse childhood experiences are. And not only understand it, but do something about it. This is a great example. Do you think your parents are going to come clean about the things that they've happened? No. So you're going to have to end up doing something about it, because we watched on a documentary that this mother had the opportunity to come clean. The proof was there and she didn't. So what did he do? He went to music.
Yeah.
He went right into the studio, sung his heart out, got his therapy out, sung, and is still living his life and doing what he needs to do. But it's still that mother wound that is hurting him right now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I think even if she says something, I don't think that that's going to help. I think that is not going to do anything at all because the opportunity presented itself. He's not going to look at her the same because he gave her that opportunity. He said it. I hope you look at this documentary and see that you had the opportunity to come clean and you still chose not to do it. She still got the opportunity. I'm interested to know if she actually did.
Well, maybe we get him on the show to talk about it.
I'm ready. Come on, Kirk. And here we go. Kirk, you know where to find us. We're actually in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We would love for you to come and sit here and have this discussion with us because it's important for people to understand their ACEs and their ACEs story. And you may not know, but us a whole about 36, 37 people before we filmed, I put it in your comments. Thank you for sharing your ACEs story, and we're here. And you've helped so many people understand exactly what adverse childhood experiences are and how to heal. Music is your therapy, so we thank you so much for doing everything and impacting those who went to your music to help us heal. Because for me, that's who you are. So I thank you for the wonderful person you are and everything that you went through, unfortunately, because it made you the person to reach out and help those in need. So thank you. We're here. We're ready. You can find me on social media everywhere, Dr. Victorious. You can go to my webpage, Be Victorious. For anybody that has any questions or concerns about ACEs, let me know. I'll be able to address and have those questions and answer those questions for you as well. Thank you for having me in the studio.
No problem.
I appreciate
You
it.
dope, so you know.
And I'm going to stay dope, let's be clear. Shout out to the Creative Collection. This is one of my sorors. And Auntie Tad actually been hooking up and representing her, so I had to go ahead and be dope because this is the right thing to do. Wanted to go ahead and shout out Half Often Jewels for the bling and my earrings, but you know, support is everything. And I think that's all Kirk really wants. I think that's all his family wants. And so we want you here. Any questions or concerns, you guys know where to find me. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you soon.